Hi everybody, it's me, Patty. I'm back again with another color with me. I just, for some reason, one of the ladies mentioned something about by the end of this I'm going to have a whole zoo, and that sort of prompted me to think, oh, what other animals could we do? And I had a bunch of reference photos that I had downloaded when I was doing a needle felted tutorial. And I thought, well, maybe I'll pull some of those together and I'll put together a really quick little elephant. But only we're going to do these elephants in a really nice abstract way. You can do it whatever way you want, but if you want to play along with me, I'm going to do mine in kind of like a little bit, because I like to work with watercolor. So here's my travel kit. This is what I have at home. I videoing at home because the software on my computer in the studio is only Windows 7. Of course, it's not supported anymore. And when I tried to videotape down there, my video player wouldn't work anymore. So anyway, I've come down here. I switched. My son let me use his because mine was doing a lot of jittering. I didn't see it from here, but when I played it back, it was very jittery or jumpy. So anyway, I actually downloaded new drivers, and because my webcam actually is a newer version of the one my son let me use, and this actually looks a little bit more um, focused than the previous. So we'll see at the end. So we have these lovely elephants, and I put in a little baby elephant in there too. These beautiful, majestic creatures. They're just incredible. You know, I read an article somewhere that said that elephants look at humans. They're absolutely fascinated with us, and that they actually, I don't know why this here part looks really weird, but they look at us like we look at puppies. Apparently they think we're really cute. So it's that kind of a reaction to us. Now this was transferred onto here. I did my sketches on, which I always do. I do them on tracing paper, and then that way they're easy to use or transfer onto other surfaces. But on my transfer paper, I use an ink so that it will photocopy properly. I don't know if I figure out a different way. Some people will transfer things with a light box. I suppose I could have used a light box to transfer this. Maybe I'll try it on the next one. I've got a little 9 by 12 light box LED. I've never really used it, and I'm not sure why. We'll have to check it out. Um, but anyway, this is it. It is what it is. And so these are hard lines. They don't. Unfortunately, that graphite is very permanent, and it doesn't really go anywhere. But what I want to do is today I'm using my number 10 um, Princetons. I love the Princetons. They're really good quality. This is my Princeton 8, which is one of my favorites, and it's actually a long, when I get this wet, you'll see. Now these are synthetic watercolors, but they're of the kind of a newer generation. I for years used Kolinsky Sables, which are absolutely fantastic brushes. And I actually use a number 4 Kolinsky Sable. I use that a lot. And this is the one I actually keep at home. I have some really good brushes at the studio too. I have some really good Russian brushes. I have a lot of brushes. But these here are really good stable brushes. These are probably the ones that I use, and at home I use these exclusively, even though I have a whole bunch that I brought home. I don't know. It's just like, you can never have too many brushes. You can never have too many shoes. You can never have too many scarves, accessory, accessory. But probably these are the 4 most common brushes that I use. So a number 10, a number 8, a number 4, and this is actually I think it's a 2-aught or something like that. Oh, I think it's actually even rubbed off. It's so old, but it is a Winsor Newton. I think it's a 0 Winsor Newton Kolinsky Sable. So these here, I have a lot of these tiny ones, which I have used for many years on my drifting saints. Very fine facial details on them. Okay, so anywho, let's get started. I'm gonna use the number 10 though, because it's a bigger brush, and I'm just gonna wet all this down, and I'm just gonna drop colors in, and then just let them all mingle together. Actually, maybe I'll do this one all wet on wet, and maybe I'll just do this one wet on dry. You know, just kind of give it a couple of different options here. So I'm just gonna wet this whole area. I'm using a bigger piece of paper now, and this is actually a Strathmore 400 series. I was using the little, the smaller sheets came in a pad. For the other ones, I was using, you know, for the giraffes. If you've seen the giraffes, if you haven't, go to my YouTube there and you can see the giraffes. And if you go to the Facebook page, you'll be able to download the JPEGs for them, print them out, and color or paint them, whatever way you want. You just can't sell them for personal gain because they are my own design. These are also modified somewhat, but they are taken from a photo, copyright-free photo reference online. So they're not really mine. So you can do whatever you want with these ones, but any of the ones that I say are my own design, then that you cannot sell them for your own personal gain. This is really just so we can all connect here during this pandemic. I know it's getting really hard on some people. It's just, I think maybe I might be in a stage of denial still, perhaps. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be bothering me as much, or maybe the brevity of it all hasn't really sunk in. I'm not really sure how to think about it. I just know that I really wanted to kind of touch everybody in some way, and you know, my classes had to be canceled at the studio, of course, and that's actually how I'm able to even keep the studio, is by conducting classes. So I'm not really sure how that's going to go moving forward. You know, that's kind of scary. I ran a campaign for this month's pay. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do this April to raise funds. I think I'm just asking anybody that wants to donate after watching a video, even $5. It all adds up. Okay, so let's drop some wonderful colors in here. And I was really liking playing with this purple. It's the Windsor Violet. I didn't want to use the dioxazine one, the Daniel Smith, because it's just a little bit too strong. So I'm thinking I might just kind of drop some colors in here. See how that's spreading right out? Just plop them in. And then I think I'm going to use, because when you see how beautiful and majestic these animals are, I'm going to see, I'm coming over here. You can't see my palette. But so there's the Windsor purple, and I'm actually going to go into this magenta here because they're of the same kind of vibrancy. I'm going to actually water that down on my, and I clean my brush after every use. I don't mix in my colors. I'll see it's almost identical, so I'm going to have to come in a little stronger. So I'll just drop that in, see? And I want to keep that at the top. I'm going to just drop that all in there. Yeah. What other color here? Let's go with a really strong blue. This particular blue, and I still haven't uncovered the name of it. I had a tube and I went, oh my God. I have a lot of blues, and if you've been listening to my other videos, you'll note that I like blues. I like to carry a lot of blues in my palette because I make my own greens. So I'm just going to try to tickle some of these colors to mingle in together. So see how the colors are all go. So once that's dry, then I'm going to kind of come over with it and tease, you know, like add some other colors. So I can actually do that when it's got to a point where it's satiny on the surface. It's not quite so sopping wet. And so you can introduce some other colors in there without muddying it too much. Now, I'm using colors that are actually quite harmonious with one another, so that's why that they're not looking muddy or grummy. So if I was to use an orange or anything with this, anywhere where that orange and blue overlapped would look gray or brown. Makes muddy colors when you use complements. So if you can use colors on that are close to each other on the color wheel, then those are a little bit more harmonious. And I see that this has already got dry. This is it's a hard mix for me because I was using the level 2 artist loft before, and it was super absorbent, and it stayed wet for a while. Now I'm just finding that this is super absorbent too, or the other paper wasn't super. How's that work? I'm trying to figure this out. It was a little too absorbent, and it spread out, like the sizing wasn't very good on it, where this here is soaking right in. It's not spreading though, it's just good. That goes to show you the quality of the paper, that the paint is only going where I'm asking it to go. So this is that deep magenta again, but I'm going to actually add some more purple in here. And let's put some of this under the belly area here too, and in the dark shadow part. And then I could come in and do a lift, right? And then I'm going to come in with some purple. Okay, let's see that. And we can tease that along. So I got some puddles there. So what I'd like to do with the puddles is I'll lift them out. I come in with what we call a thirsty brush. Dab off the excess water. I'm not going in and getting any more pigment right now. I'm gonna get some more clean water though. Clean my brush, dab all the excess water off, and then I'm just gonna kind of tease a little bit here to get these colors to mingle up a little bit. So here, I think I'll put a little bit of. So we kind of got some darker colors in here. All right, very colorful. Okay, so there's the darker version. So very colorful version. So maybe that's the male, because even though the women are much more colorful in my opinion, they don't tend to, in most of the animal species, they don't tend to be the most colorful in, like birds, right? You see the males. Notice I'm kind of doing 3 colors, and you also notice I jump around a lot in my conversation. The males tend to be brighter for some reason because they seem to have to work harder to get a mate. That's how I see it. Women don't have to get all fussed up, I suppose. We're just naturally beautiful. Right? Yeah. That's what it is. This is a very powerful magenta. I think I might even drop in just a little bit of quinacridone rose. I use a lot of Daniel Smith's and Windsor. So this is already at that satin level where it's drying. So that came in heavy and it just sat. So what I'm going to do is I cleaned out my pigment. I went in with just straight water, clean water, and I took off the excess. And I'm coming in and I'm just teasing the edges here. See that? So it softens that out. I'll bring that up a little closer. See that? This is going to be a really nice variegated elephant when we're done. She's going to be so pretty. And then I'll come over with my artist pen and just finish it off. Maybe I might even do the baby in some metallics. Right, so a little bit of that came over on the baby, but that's okay because I probably will maybe make a mix of colors from the baby. So I do see that I got a bit of a puddle here. So I'm just going to lift that out a little bit, and then I'm going to come in with some clean water so that I don't have a bare spot. And I'll come in with just a little bit of the watered down pigment though. See, no water, no excess water on it, just pigment rich. So what I do, for those who are new and watching this, probably have to overlap some of my comments, but when you put your watercolors in your pans, what I do before I start anything is I spray mist. I have like a little spray mister. The other thing is, if you don't have one of them, if you have one of these little pipettes or even an eyedropper, put water in every one of these, get them all softened up prior to start, and that'll be just like you're using fresh out of the tube. Your pigments will be rich and ready to go. So here now, I think what I'd like to do is I'm wondering if maybe I might do this one here. I might want to do this one. I really would like to do this one yellows and everything over here. And I think I'm going to go with the medium yellow. It's one of my favorites, the Hansa Yellow Medium. It's actually considered a primary color, and I see that some blue got dropped in there, and it's probably on a pass. And what I mean by that is I got some dark color off one at the other end, and as I was coming over, a drop must have fallen in there. And I'm not particularly happy when that happens, but it happens. So I also, for those, a little tidbit, I know I should be changing my water here, my dirty water. You should have one container for dirty water, one for clean, and then so I have a little piece of chicken wire that I folded up and I put in the bottom of one of my dirty water one, so that when I bring my brush in there, I really rub it on the grate, and that gets all that extra pigment off and gets my brush clean, nice and clean and ready for the next. So this one here, though, I think I'm going to go with wet paint onto the dry surface, and we'll see what kind of goodies. So I'm going to use this beautiful Hansa Yellow Medium. I got some pretty good pigment on there, pretty good amount, and I'm just going to be kind of random with where I want to put these colors. Maybe up on the head. Oh, so I'm going over the lines. I don't care. I'm just having fun. This isn't something I'm doing for an exhibit or anything. We're just having some coloring fun. I just put a little bit over his. I'm going to keep the light on the top part of the body because that's the closest to the light source. I'm just kind of doing it that way. Clean that out. And then let's come in with some ultramarine blue. It's one of my favorite blues. It's this gorgeous, rich red blue, which actually makes it a warm blue. Anything with a red, an orange, or a yellow in it tends to be on the warmer side of the palette. Of course, you do have cool yellows, but those yellows tend to be on the green side, right? So anything with a violet or a green or a blue tends to be on a cool side. I know it sounds like an oxymoron when we go with ultramarine blue that's warm, but just trust me. It has to do with pigments, right? It's always about pigments. And you do notice too when you're putting your colors together. So my ultramarine blue was not as nice, not as soft as the rest of my palette was when I put the water in. It really soaked it up, so I had to add some more water, and now I'm really working that to get a nice rich. I don't want it really watery when I introduce it to the page here. See? And we'll go over here. Maybe we'll just kind of use it a little bit as a shadow color, maybe. So it might be in here. Under here. Definitely under here. And of course it's going to pick up a little bit of that yellow there too. So what I can do, the other thing I can do, oh, and I'm going to use some of this Quin Gold here too. So you can see some of the colors are starting to mix together. So these are the beautiful majestic ears. See this beautiful head. I have a really nice 432 hertz playing in the background. I'm a big believer of getting your head space in a good place. So I tend to listen to binaural beat or isochronic. Isochronic's great because you don't need headphones in order to get the benefit. But what that does is it actually puts you in a state, an alpha theta state. Um, so it's a great relaxation, gets you in a really nice high state of creativity and good things. So watch this. Wait, I'm gonna spray it off to the side first because I don't want big drops. I just want, yeah. So let's see what we got going here. This all teased together. So I'm gonna go with my smaller brush now. It's wet on it, and I'm gonna start to just tease the edges of these. So we fill in some of the gaps. You know what I think I might do down here though? I might use a little burnt sienna. That's classed as a red, burnt sienna, even though it's one of the earth colors. You notice I'm leaving the trunk alone, eh? Why does that look so dull? It's usually such a beautiful, bright color. Alright, maybe I need to boost it up. Put a little quin in there. It's a back like that'll be darker, so I'm gonna put some burnt umber in there. Maybe you should add a little purple in them. Huh? Just add a little purple in there, because that'll make it really dark. Hey, look at how dark that made that. And that's going to be okay with the blue. I like working in threes with colors. That makes a nice variegated wash and when you're working with a variegated. But I don't like to work with a whole lot of funky colors because then it could get messy. Now, that being said, it just depends. If your colors are harmonious, it could look really nice. So it's a little muddy down below, but I can brighten that up as I go. So this here can also, add a little bit of the lighter yellow in here. So I picked up a little blue on that, so that's okay. It's going to make a little bit of a green. And clean off my brush, go in my clean water, get that cleaned off. And a lot of times I'll even do this too, because this is a Kolinsky. Kolinsky is a natural hair, so it holds a lot more water and it holds it for longer. And so because I'm so used to using the synthetics, they don't hold as much water, so I was used to them, and I found that I had to kind of, even though I dabbed it off on my cloth, I always have a rag or a sponge. You could use an old rag or sponge, and that's where I dab off my excess water. Sometimes this is already damp, which it is now, and I always dab my excess water off on that. So I'm going to just tease all of this in here. So there you go. Let's see. And just tease them all together. So the other thing too, you know, if you want to create like an energy, I think I'm going to put some quin over here. Just I was gonna do, you know, there's times where you can do your classic colors, you know, when you're doing your elephants. I mean, that's great too if you want to be beautiful and bold with them and do their, you know, some nice tonal True Value colors. But my purpose for doing all of this, really being really crazy right now, is just to let it go and be creative. No boundaries, right? Okay, that looks like a pretty colorful mess. I'm just being experimental. It might not, in the end, work out too good, but it's okay. Can always start over. Wouldn't be the first time. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll do them a few times before I do them live. Um, you know, just because I try out colors, and then if I'm especially doing a paint along, um, then I so um, then I kind of find, shortcuts and things like that, because otherwise it takes quite a bit of time. You see this here? This is a bloom. And what happens with a bloom is I didn't pick up that water in time, and as it dried, it bubbled back. But I can come in and I just scrumble with a wet brush. Sometimes you can get rid of a bloom if it's a staining color. It's not so good, because that won't go away. But in this instance, I was able to smoosh that out. Okay, so this is pretty dark. I'm not really liking that all that much. So you see what I'm doing? I'm lifting it a bit. Oh, I see my camera's kind of went out of focus. Maybe because I'm doing too much movement. Where's my autofocus? Huh. My autofocus just went out. I'm sorry. I'm standing here looking at the camera here and wondering why that is so blurry. And it could be because I was using my brush, moving my brush around, and I don't have it on a follow. I'm sorry about that. Maybe if I went out back further. Wow, one of these days I'm going to be able to do a video. Like, these webcams are really only good for, when you're doing conferencing and stuff and people watching, I suppose. So this is interesting because I used ultramarine blue here. Maybe I must have had some of that other color on, because ultramarine blue is not a staining blue. It does not leave a residue behind. And this is stained, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. It baffled me. But I love this quinacridone gold. It has such a nice color. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that alone. The paper's pretty wet right now, and if I overwork it, sometimes it'll pill, kind of come apart. And I might add some colors in here after too. Okay, and I'll fix this up too. I always post it after, but this is just so we have a nice commentary and you've got something to play along with and you see the results of it before you do it. I just feel really bad that it turned out to be crappy focus. And I'll go over the eyes and everything and all of this with a black ink. Maybe I'll do that as a part 2, and then you can see once this is dry, I can come over it. This little gaffer here, he's just young, he's vibrant, and he's full of mischief. I think I might just kind of come in and put like a little bit of a pale grayish tone to him, and then work with some some blues on it, right? Here's a nice, this is a whole bean color, so it is a gray, and I'll just kind of come in here A bit of it. And then I'll just drop some colors in because he's still a little guy. He hasn't got his feathers yet, right? And what I'm going to do too is I'm going to show you, and this is kind of pretty much semi-dry. I'm actually going to come in with my bigger brush, load it up with pigment, and just flick, 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 flick my brush so I got big splashes. And then I'll spray it, let it drop down just to give it some, you know, kind of energy to the page. So maybe we'll add a little bit of dad and a little bit of mom. Yeah, we'll figure out which is who, but okay, so get a little bit of this off, and I'll just lightly touch with that purple. And then we'll just spread it out a little. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of that Queen Gold. Love that color. Love it. So rich. It's just a great color. And you'll hear me say that a lot. I have a lot of favorite colors. I'll go, oh, this was my favorite color. And then another painting, it'll be, oh, this is my favorite color. And I think that's kind of in response to how it's behaving in particular to the picture I want to do. All right. So I got rid of the excess puddle. Just soaked up a little bit of that. The natural brushes tend to have a better, you've got a better success with thirsty brushes on those. See? So that it's kind of got like an opaque mottly color here, which is nice. I like it. And so then perhaps maybe we'll do then a little bit of the ultramarine blue as the to separate the purple and the yellow, right? Because otherwise that will make the gray. Yeah, there we go. He's kind of a tricone for now. Get them to mix up a little bit. So the gray underneath that I used, that's this whole bean. Can't remember what the pigment of that is. It'll have a couple. It'll probably have a titanium white in it. Okay, so what can I put in there? Oh yeah, another one of my whole bean favorites. I primarily use Daniel Smith and Winsor Newton, but whole bean has some amazing colors too. Now something I've ordered and I haven't done yet or used, and I should have brought them out for tonight. You know what? I'm going to use them on the rabbits. Is Core, QOR, and they are watercolors produced by Golden, and they're completely different because they have a different binder than the traditional watercolors such as Winsor Newton, Daniel Smith. They all have a gum arabic binder, and the core, let me see if I got it here. The core watercolors binder is a clear binder. It's made by Golden, of course, and it's Q Little Big R, I think they got it as. Um, and I got the little 6-color high chroma watercolor set as when I was at um, Curry's in London, Ontario. And I thought, ooh, you know what? I've always wanted to try these. They didn't have any at the Michael's store in Sarnia. So I thought, well, you know what? Let's give them a whirl. Because it's great when you can use, I'm going over this with the leaf green. This is the whole bean. Leaf green, one of the prettiest greens on the planet, bar none. And you know what? You really can't see how rich. Oh yeah, now you can. See how he's really glowing? She is. I'm gonna play with this a little bit more once it's dry, but that's one multicolored, colorful elephant. That is for sure. So this is all turning into more of a greeny. And the reason why I did that was because I touched up the baby elephant with it. So we'll come in with our black markers, and here I think I'm actually going to come in here and just lighten this up a little with the Quinn, See, this paw is kind of bent like this because he's walking forward. Put a little bit on this side too. And we'll add a little bit there and a little bit there just to tie it in. Mixing it, of course, with that blue is going to make it purple. Let's spread that right up. And I might drop a little bit of the blue in there just to give it some shadow right in here. Don't want that to bleed out too much. So just come in here a little bit more to bring that down. Yeah. Okay. Shadow area. Okay. Anyway, sounds good. And we'll let that dry. So I was telling you about the core. What is the binder? Is it going to tell me somewhere? Aquazol. 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 Apparently it's supposed to be a superior binder because it's supposed to support a greater pigment loading than the traditional watercolor binders. So it is a huge learning curve on using them, and a lot of watercolorists, there, look at that. All right, so we're going to leave that, and we're going to do a part 2, but I just want to close with saying that the core is definitely a learning curve for people who have used traditional watercolors for a long time. I myself, when I first used them, they're extremely vivid. They're very vivid and they're wonderful. They've got just a real strength to the color. They're very pigment rich. And so I've got just the little 6-color. It's not really a primary set, but you know what? I might use that for the Easter Bunny, and we'll just use straight. No, I've got this other little pen set that are all pastel colors. I think that'd be better for the Easter Bunny because, you know, it's all about the pastels. And maybe I'll do the core watercolors with something else. Okay, that's what we'll do. And maybe I'll do another one of these, but I'll just do it with the core. So this looks a little bit messy, but that's okay. So that's where you come in with some defining. Once this is completely dry, I may even come over this again with a complete different color floated on top. That won't mix it won't mix with the bottom when you work quickly. And you can correct some things with this, and or just leave it and I'll outline it and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, good night everybody.